Thank you for checking out New Dice. Super appreciated. Today, we're going to talk about your characters at the table from the angle of a game master. What I've taken from my couple sessions that I've run of Dungeons and Dragons, and let's look into my second session that I DM'd, what I took from it, what I implemented, and how I think it was very beneficial, and maybe it could be beneficial to your table. And then the beautiful part is we've got a nice little community of GMs who have done this for a while, who come in and they make their comments on why this does or doesn't work. In fact, after we talk about what I'm gonna, the main topic for today's video, we're gonna put a bow on last episode with some comments from some game masters who have done it for a while. I think it was very good stuff, and we will get into that. Plus, at the very end of the video today, we're going to do some stuff of note. Some news from the week. This will be very topical, and it'll just be quick at the end. I just wanted to get some stuff out there because I think it's kind of cool, some of the things happening in the TTRPG space and how we can approach it as fans of this hobby. Before anything, though, I could not believe it. I can't believe it. I'm overwhelmed, overjoyed, beyond thankful, grateful. Over 100 subscribers to this channel. That's insane. If you hit subscribe on it, you watch the videos, I can't express how thankful I am to that. It's unbelievable. That's so cool. I'm so excited about it. And I just really appreciate anyone who took the time to watch. First of all, anyone who took the time to subscribe, that's awesome. And then, of course, anyone who commented on the last couple of videos, it made, I don't know, put a little extra pep to my step this week. So thank you for that. Huge. Over 100 subscribers. Wow. Never thought that would happen. So I'm just really excited about that. Okay. And thanks for those of you who messaged me and said you've told other people about it. That I couldn't even believe. That was like the next level of I can't even believe it. So thank you. Okay, so what did I do in my second session? We talked about my first session and how I took the tips that I learned from that. We're going to talk more about that in a little bit when we put a bow on it by reading some comments that some people had that I thought were really nice, are really helpful. What did I do? Well, if you've listened to a couple of these videos, I know I've mentioned them. I love 3x5 cards. I love them. I love them. I love them. I've got them always at the ready. They're just great. I think they're awesome. So one of the things I thought when I went into my second session was the people who are at this, it was virtual, at this virtual table need to be the most important thing to me as a dungeon master. That's what it needs to be. I have my notes. I've got my plan. I've got some ideas. I've got an encounter that I know is not going to go well because I'm still terrible at balancing them. But what matters? Well, it's the people who are playing. That's what matters more than the stuff that I had done before then. So I wrote down on these 3x5 cards my characters' names. Bon, Celestarian, and Stormbreaker. I wrote them down on these 3x5 cards. Now, I have my laptop or my computer where I take notes while the session's going and just kind of type things in there, okay? But a lot of times my notes get fumbled and it's hard to see what's going on, and they're a lot more based on the story that's going on and quest lines and things like that. These are just about the characters, okay? So I would write something down from in either session 1 or session 2, and I made sure to be listening to my characters, and I recommend you do the same because they have put time into creating the people that are inside of your adventure, the characters that exist in your world. They took time to make these characters. Let's celebrate that. And let's make sure that they are well taken care of. So what did I do? Well, anytime something came up where one of the characters brought up something they had built before the game started, something in either their backstory or something they thought was important to their character, I wrote it down. And then what did I do? I put it on these 3x5 cards. And I've got a bunch of these. This is just a little extra note. My kids destroyed our game of Chutes and Ladders. So I took the little pieces, the little clips that you put the characters on, and they work really well with a 3x5 card to put a 3x5 card, slide it in there. And I had a physical object in front of my computer, and I would do it in front of my DM screen that has the characters' names and little notes. So what do I have on them? Things like this. I know Celeste barged into a tavern at one point, and in the midst of a deception moment with it required deception checks and trying to win over some people, she mentioned she was from the Gnomish Ministry of Affairs. Now, this is something she made up on the fly that she was proud of. And I was like, if she made it up on the fly and she was proud of it, that needs to be, for me, a GM, something I remember and something we recall, because that's cool. And that's something that was important to her. So what I do, I wrote it down. And then the next session, when we were in town and someone brought up the fact that came up that this group was in this tavern for this moment that was kind of a big deal. And one of the town guards said, wait, are you the person who's here in town from the Gnomish Ministry of Affairs? I could feel it from the player, where there is some mutual respect. I listened to what they brought to the table. It matters. The character matters. The efforts from the players mattered, right? Bon pulled out a crossbow in the encounter we talked about in the last video with the rats. I had too many of them. But Bon pulled out his crossbow. And when he did, he said, I pull out Harvester, my crossbow. He had named it. That was a huge deal. He named his crossbow. He took the time in character creation to do something that's important to him. That needed to be something I wrote down on this card. So it's laying in front of me. So any chance I get, later on, I made sure to mention Harvester, right? With Stormbreaker, I had a couple things. I've got a couple things written down for each person, and they change. I'll cross them out. I'll make a new one of these cards for every session. For Harvester, or for Stormbreaker, I had the fact that she described her armor when she walked into a room as blue, these blue and yellow armor, so I made sure to write that down. I also mentioned at one point in a conversation that her character is deathly afraid of the forest, and I thought, well, that's really cool. What if we try to dangle the carrot of something very awesome for her barbarian? The rumors of a really awesome sword. The two things Stormbreaker had mentioned was that she is on a quest to level up her skills as a barbarian. I think that's what it was. She's a barbarian. I think I said paladin. As a barbarian. She wants a better weapon. She wants better stuff. She's looking to become a better barbarian, better at fighting crafts. So I was like, well, let's dangle a cool weapon out and bury it in the middle of a forest. And this is paying attention to the fact that she's terrified of him, but that she also wanted to get that. So we wrote that down, and we're going to make that happen for her. I just think it's so important as a DM that through all the stuff I mentioned in the last video about things that are happening, trying to remember character voices, trying to remember where your quest line goes, at the end of it all, the people who are making these characters are what matter. And you need to really focus on that stuff. Pay attention to what your players say. Write stuff down. And then what I did is when we went to our break, our middle of the session break, I rushed to my notes. I thumbed through them. I found anything that was in my brain that reminded me of something they said. And immediately during that break, I wrote stuff down. Wrote stuff down that the characters had brought up. Not that I forced out of them, but that they went out of their way to bring up by themselves. Okay, that was a long time explaining that. I thought that was going to take 2 minutes. I talked for, 8 minutes? I'm so sorry. There you go. So that's what I'm looking at today. That's what I urge you to do, Game Masters, DMs, new Game Masters like me. Let's focus on these characters. Let's really lean into what they're bringing to the table. I think, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, I'll let you follow along. You know, I'm going to send these characters out into the forest to try to find a weapon. We'll see if that works or not. It wasn't what I had of the plans originally, but we're going to take a detour and do that and force Stormbreaker to go into an area she's uncomfortable in, and we're going to see how that plays out. But I think they'll provide you with the route you need to take just if you listen to what they're excited about and what they've created and what they're bringing to the table. Let's put a bow on last episode, shall we? On the last video. This video was titled 3 Takeaways from My First DM Session, if you missed that one. So I'm going to read some comments that I highlighted here. First of all, I wanted to give a shout out to Chris Landis 3237, who said, great video. I'm about to DM for the first time on Sunday. Very excited to see how it goes. Chris, can you keep us posted? I want to know how it went. I want to know what your takeaways were. I want to know what you thought you did well, what you thought you did poorly, what you can improve on. I just want to hear about it. And what'd you do? I know that's a lot to just type, but I would love to hear about it. I'd love to follow your journey, Chris. Okay. Another one I wanted to read, Allurian90 had a really long, great comment. Oh, it's really great. You go find it in the comments. And I wanted to read part of it in regards to the thoughts on that video. Alurian said, one of the biggest challenges for new DMs is the popularity of live play series like Critical Role and Dimension 20. Those are professionally produced content where the goal is to show no cracks and stay immersive at all times. But that is an insane standard to try to mimic. It's totally fine to abort scenes and combats out of nowhere if it's clear it's going sideways. You can always use, quote, rocks fall, you die on your own guys and just move on. With a little bit of finesse, you can start to make it look intended. Did I put too many rats in this fight? No. Halfway through, a bunch of them smell a foul scent through the sewer and run off to set up a later encounter. I did put too many rats in, but don't tell anyone. See, I love that. This is from somebody who has been a DM for a while. Again, really good comment across the board by Alurian. And saying, for those of us new DMs who are worried about that stuff, and maybe you have watched Critical Role. I love Critical Role. I love The Adventure Zone. I love Not Another D&D podcast. High Roller's another great one. There's a lot of these actual plays I like. And sure, I understand that's not how my table's going to go, but it is hard to, push away all the thoughts in the back of your brain that go, that's not how it would have gone on the actual play. So I think that's a really good note right there to just take your time, take some deep breaths. Your table is not a highly produced actual play. It's just happening there, and you can modify things, and it's not going to end the world, and you're not fighting for subscribers and eyes. You're just fighting, again, for the people at your table. Okay, I had one more comment. There's so many I wanted to read as we put a bow on that last episode, but one thing I wanted to say, this was like a moment for me. So the Bard's College YT, one of my favorite dungeon tubers, bringing the afro to the dungeon tube. I love his content. I think it's great. Much unlike this channel, very concise 5 to 7 minute videos. You're sitting here going, why have I listened for 11 minutes? The Bard's College, I think, is great. And he commented on that last video. And I was just like, oh my gosh. What? That was wild. I said, love the video. As someone approaching 7 years of DMing, the pressure you mentioned is real. But these are good tips. Cool to see your evolution as a DM. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. A lot of the stuff I've stolen for my games comes from your channel, The Bard's College. Just so you know that. All right, so there's putting a bow on that last video here on the channel. Thank you for all the comments on that. We'll look at the comments, if there are any, about this one on next week's video. I want to do some stuff of note. There's so much news that comes out around the TTRPG world, and I wanted to just touch on a couple things really quickly. D&D and Fortnite are doing a collab, and the reason I bring this up, both of these topics are beating a dead horse, I think, especially this one. And it's going to be something that happens throughout the tenure of this channel. D&D and Fortnite are having a crossover. I like going to forums and interacting on them just to see what people are saying. I think there's a lot of good things to learn on those things. I also love D&D news. I immediately saw, on both sides of it, but I saw a lot of naysayers, oh, the Fortnite people don't get D&D. It made me sad. It made me sad because it was like, well, D&D, the Fortnite people don't like D&D. And why are we gatekeeping? Why are we gatekeeping this amazingly radical, cool hobby? Come on in. That's what I say. Come on in. Do you know how many people play Fortnite? A trillion. A gazillion. So many. They are getting exposed to D&D. Will a trillion people come play D&D? I wish, but they're not going to. But there might be a handful that are like, dude, this D&D stuff is cool in this game. What are all these creatures? What is this D&D? And it's another way to open the door. It's just another way people are seeing Dungeons and Dragons. And I know I can hear you now, but I don't like Dungeons and Dragons. I only like Shadow Dark. That's awesome. I want to play Shadow Dark so bad. I love those things. I love other games. I want to play Daggerheart. I want to play Shadow Dark. We're going to talk about that in a second. But like Dungeons and Dragons is a great entry point. And then just like how I did, I only knew Dungeons and Dragons. And now next thing you know, I've bought 50 million PDFs of different games that I'll never play, but that I love reading through. Get in, and then it opens up the world to everything else that you love, and it also lets more people get into the hobby. So I'm so excited about the D&D and Fortnite collab. I just hope it brings more people to the table. Very cool, very exciting news. And I'm also excited as like a old man nerd who sometimes plays D&D or plays Fortnite with his buddies to get in there and be like, hey guys, I might be able to sell my friends on playing with me. Be like, look, I'm going to play Fortnite with you. If you guys come play D&D with me. Also, EN World. This is the last thing for you. EN World announced their most anticipated TTRPGs of 2026. The top 5 were the Ars Magica Definitive Edition by Atlas Games. These are games that people are looking forward to the most this year. Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 5th Edition. That is number 4. Number 3 was Mistborn. Number 2 was Invincible Superhero Role-Playing. Could be cool. By the Free League gang. I feel like the Free League games look awesome. And then Deathbringer, that's the Roll for Combat and Dungeon Craft game. 2 very well-known YouTube channels. I want to love them both. I'm just going to be honest with you. You know I have positivity towards this hobby. I feel like there can be a lot of negativity from both of them. And so I only bring that up to say, if you have never heard of Roll for Combat or Dungeon Craft, I think they're spectacular YouTube channels with spectacular hosts. And if you go back and look at some of the old Dungeon Craft stuff, I think I sat down over 1 month and watched the first 150 Dungeon Craft videos, because they're all like these crafting things that just made my mind go nuts with ideas. Spectacular stuff from Professor DM. And I think he's very well spoken and brings in a lot of knowledge to the hobby. But I will say, I got a little jaded because I would listen to both of their stuff and I had to kind of pull away from it because it felt very negative. And maybe it wasn't, but it started to feel that way. And it might not have been negative, but it felt negative. And I was like, I can't do it because I love this hobby too much. So as much as I love most of their stuff, I've just had to take a break for a little bit. Deathbringer will probably get me back in because I think Professor DM is a brilliant mind, brilliant TTRPG mind that looks at it very differently from like what D&D does. And so Deathbringer will be cool. Anyways, I don't bring that up to bring up a Deathbringer conversation. What I wanted to say was there is a dream in my head. There is a dream. Because we have 100 subscribers. We're like the second biggest channel on YouTube behind PewDiePie. Is he still a thing, by the way? I don't know. So there's this dream in my mind that this community builds through this year where we can play games together. I would love to play games with everyone who's in this like community of watching these videos and commenting. And I would love to try the Invincible game at some point this year. I've never tried a superhero game. I would love to try Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. And what I would love is this not only to be a place where, hey, there's like a DM out there who's DM for 7 years, some people who commented 7 years, 10 years, who would want to run a game for some of us. But I would love it if some of us who are brand new to DMing could take a swing at some of these amongst other people who understand we're all very new at this. So I look at this list of the most anticipated TTRPGs and I get excited about it because I think these could be games we all play together and learn how to do this, how to craft this DMing hobby with some different systems to kind of broaden our horizons and how we approach our games at the table. Okay, thanks for watching. This was going to be 10 minutes and it's been 17. Thanks again.